Shalom and welcome to another edition of Parasha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamet in Highland Park, New Jersey, Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation, Anshe Emet, and joining me, my good friends, Rabbi Barry J. Chesler, Solomon Schechter Day School, Long Island, Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanovsky, Anshe Chesed, New York City. Everyone, Parashat Va'era. Wow, it's getting complicated. Lots of plagues, lots of difficult things happening, lots of suffering in this parsha, both on the side of Israel and Egypt. But it starts out with a very interesting passage. And the passage is that God is reintroducing himself to Moses, and Moses is going to convey that to the people. And it's a familiar passage. The passage includes the terms of redemption. I will take you out, I will save you, I will redeem you, I will take you to me. So God says to Moses, go tell that to the people. And this verse, which I can't get out of my mind every time I read this, Moses says this. It's like he gives this speech. It's filled with meaning and oratory, poetry. It's structured amazingly. And Moses says it, Vayidaber Moshe Ken el Bnei Yisrael, v'lo shamu el Moshe. They don't listen to Moses. Mikotzer ruach ume avodah kasha. From kotzer ruach, we have to get into unpack that phrase. Kotzer means short, ruach means spirit, avodah kasha, hard labor. You're Moses, and what do you feel after this, or how do you explain the?
So we have to parse this out a little bit. So before we were recording, you gave us a number of rabbinic commentators who had various definitions of kotzer ruach, but maybe the kotzer ruach is best understood as impatience, and it belongs to Moshe. That the avodah kasha is b'nei Yisrael, and the kotzer ruach is Moshe, who is impatient, right? He wants immediate results. And I was struck by another thing that you said about the verses of redemption, which generate for the rabbis the cups of wine that we were going to have at the Haggadah. And it suddenly dawned on me, this is really supposed to be the Torah B'Kitzur, in short. This is the Tamsi. It's supposed to go from Exodus to Canaan, the promised land. But we never get there. Yeah. So even the God that is introduced here is not the God that we know, because the Torah's God never brings the people to the land of Israel.
Well, I would differ on that last point only insofar as the Torah, because the five books of Moses end with us on the other side of the Jordan, but Joshua does come into the land. So a Bible reader who does not yet know that the Chumash is the Chumash instead of the Shishiyah would say we never get there. But I do think, Elliot, you have many times have mentioned that, Genesis is the story of a family, Exodus is the story of a nation. And there's some transformation that's going to go on from, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their children and the little households to this nation. And the Arba Lashonot Shel Geula, these four promises, or with the fifth one, I think we shouldn't quite go away so fast from these verses in chapter 6, verse 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, 6, 7, and 8. These promises, they are constitutive of that nation in formation. Like, when does it become a nation? And Lachin Emor B'nei Yisrael. So here's what you should tell them: Ani Adonai, I'm the Lord. Hotzeti etchem mitachat tzivlot Mitzrayim. I'm going to take you out from under these burdens of Egypt. V'hitzalti etchem me'avodatam. I'm going to rescue you from their labor. V'ga'alti etchem b'zorah antuya u'bishvatim dodim. I'm going to redeem you with an outstretched arm and great judgment. V'lakachti etchem li la'am. And then I will take you to be my people. V'hayiti lachem le'elohim. And I will become your God. And that verse seems to me highly constitutive it's the essence of the people's national consciousness, which is formed right here. This is the Brit. You're going to be my people. You're going to become my people. And in Hebrew, by the way, just for our on a grammatical point, lihiot le, something, the to be verb with a lamed preposition means to become. V'hayiti lachem le'elohim means I will become your God. So when these things happen, and this is the substance of the book of Exodus, the relationship is really formed nation to God, and this to me seems like super duper.
And don't leave off the last verb, vidatem, and you shall know, and you will know. And of course, we know that knowing is much more than just knowing. But it's so it's interesting because I like to divide these verses not in terms of the 4 verbs, but actually there are 2 groups of 3, because you could look at the first 3, which is votseti, v'ga'alti, I take you out, I redeem you, v'ga'alti,
Hotzeti, hitzalti, ga'alti is the first 3.
Hitzalti, v'ga'alti. Those are 3. They're like in the same stems, and then it's v'lakachti v'ayiti v'yadatem. So the rabbis created the structure of the 4 cups of wine to match the 4 first verbs. But if you divide it differently, it kind of makes a different set of sense. That there's redemption going on in the first place, and then relationship going on in the second 3 verbs. And I agree with you that it's all about establishing the relationship, and Barry, what you said, so it has to go through more steps. It doesn't happen right away.
As long as we're talking grammar, what do you make in verse 6 that the word avodatam switches from second to third person? Right? So he's going to rescue you. I will rescue you from their work.
The work that they impose on you.
The work that they impose on you.
Because it
goes back to Mitzrayim.
It fits perfectly with the preceding clause. I'll take you out from underneath the Egyptians' burdens, not the burdens of the Egyptians are bearing, but the burdens the Egyptians are imposing. And I will rescue you from the labor they're imposing. By the way, we talked last week that Moses went out to see his brothers and see their burdens, and we talked about what could it mean? What could it mean that he goes to see his brethren and he identifies with the Israelites, or he doesn't? And Leman anoto besivlotam. I think we may have even talked about this last week, but I was just struck as I reviewed that the Egyptians are putting sivlot on the Israelites, and so when he goes out to see his brethren and their burdens, it may mean his brethren, the Egyptians, and their burdens that they are crushing the Israelites with.
Nice. So they don't listen to him, and the commentators are all over the map on why. And so I want to offer a few of their interpretations. One is that they're so depressed. They're experiencing this overwhelming sense of despair and depression. And another one, which we might want to kind of debate here, which is Moses has no credibility, and they're disappointed with Moses. Moses has already said to them, he's made one presentation to them before, in which he said that God, God is remembered, or they hear this, and the people hear what Moses said, right? B'ni B'chori Yisrael, and this is in last week's Parasha, chapter 4, and they bow down, they listen, they believe, right? And they think that they're going to be delivered already. And so and one second is that the Kotzer Ruach here is that he didn't deliver. They're disappointed, and he's lost all credibility with them. And that is part of the mix here, that he can't come to the Israelites with any sense of accomplishment now. And I think that's what's preventing him or giving him a great deal of pause. But go ahead.
So I want to shift the emphasis. I think it's a bit unfair to say he lost credibility. He never gained it. So if we look at Moses from the Israelite point of view, who is he?
Right.
He's some guy who grew up in the Pharaoh's house. He comes and tells us that God has talked to him, but it's not even the God that we know.
Right.
It's a different God. And then the first thing he says, I'm going to take you to the land, out of the land of Egypt, and our burden is immediately made worse because now we have to go find straw to make bricks
Right.
and still maintain the count. So that I think, there's kind of a dissonance here between the expectations of Moses and the people. That Moses is a leader looking for a people, and the Israelites are a people looking for a leader, and they haven't quite met yet.
So again, the politics of this are fascinating, which is can you parachute into a people without any street cred, without any without any experience? Can you just lead a people without having made any accomplishment, without having paved the pothole? I don't know.
I think you could only lead your people, and until they become your people, they're not going to be led.
Well, I return to that Kotze Ruach verse with a little bit of a fanciful reading, if we can say, "Vayidaber Moshe Kain el bnei Yisrael velo shamu el Moshe mikotze ruach me'avodah kasha." Moses says yes, but they're in no. But Vayidaber Moshe Kain, he says yes, velo shamu, but they can't hear it because the hope has been beaten out of them. And now the question about, I think, Barry, the thing you raised about maybe the Kotze Ruach is Moses' own impatience. Now, I think this is potentially just brilliant because what do we have in Parasha Va'era and Bo coming up? Is we've got a long, elaborate series of plagues that presumably unfold over about a year, and it's success after success after success after success for Moshe. So the thought about Moshe is, his frustration, his failure. I'm not sure about that because he does absolutely everything that he says he's going to do. They're all tremendous. They are all absolute marvels. Now he hasn't convinced Pharaoh to relent yet, but that's because Pharaoh's a tough guy. Pharaoh's not a wussy. Pharaoh's not a bum. Pharaoh is going to stand and fight. And the hardened heart of Pharaoh, I think, though of course it is a long discussion in Jewish thought about is he losing his free will? Is God forcing him to continue to fight? Pharaoh likes to fight. Pharaoh wants to challenge Moshe, but Moses is doing great. I mean, he's making miracle after miracle. So when is it that the people are like going to get impatient and worried? They're progressing pretty well, it seems to me.
But they're not getting any closer to their goal, right? Their goal is to get out of their situation. And Moses and Aaron do this great sound and light show, but they haven't left the theater yet.
You see, I'm going to push back on this one a little bit because they're not getting any closer. Of course, they're getting closer, but they haven't arrived. And the it may feel like that. Whatever's the name of that paradox, is that the somebody's paradox, Zeno's paradox. You make halfway
where
every
the
step of the journey.
tortoise can't catch up to the hare.
Halfway. Of course, they're getting closer, and any reader of the Torah knows they're getting closer. But this is exactly, frankly, what you have to say about every human problem, because every human problem, every social problem, economic problem, political problem, the societies and the citizens always say, well, this ain't fixed yet. What's up with this? You're not doing a damn thing. Well, actually, we might be doing a damn thing, but we haven't arrived yet. And maybe we're never going to arrive, but it might be a little closer than it was before.
Okay. So this may be the importance of Shabbat, which doesn't come up this week, because what you're suggesting is that what's this kind of slavery does is it distorts time for the enslaved, and Shabbat is what will liberate.
All right, I want to throw something in here because I'm hungering for a midrash. Okay, I want to see the pastoral side of Moshe, and the Torah doesn't give me that. I want to see Moshe, like, visiting them in the hospital. I want to see Moshe kind of like saying to them, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be," and none of what he said is that. It's theology. Okay. And when I've commented in the past commented on this in the past. I said, there's a time when you can do theology and a time when you got to just hold someone's hand. And I wanna hear a voice that says, he's with the people. He's hearing their pain. He's comforting them. And I don't get the
Okay.
Torah doesn't give me that picture.
Because Moses is not a people person. Who is the people person? Aaron. And what does he do for the people? He builds them a golden calf.
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself. So let's talk about people persons and non-people.
But he does. I mean, I think part of what you're saying, Elliot, is Moses does not seem to have those people skills. And I'm going to run ahead a little bit again. And he's going to end up in the Ohel Moed with the masveh over his face, completely removed from the people.
Right. And so that's why we do need the midrash here. The midrash here, I mean, if we don't have a midrash here that says let's invent one, that kind of rabbinizes Moses. He makes him into a Hillel, makes him into a Yochanan, makes him into a whoever, makes him into a Jeremy Kalmanovsky, makes him into an look, if your car agent is crying out to you, you're gonna run, you're gonna go in the middle of the night. We've all done that, okay?
When we finish recording, I'm going to visit somebody who
exactly just okay. So but that's Haroeh. He's the shepherd, but it doesn't tell us that. And then the reason why I'm doing this is because look, go to the first plague now, okay? So if you look at chapter 7, verse 23, so Moses is going to Pharaoh. He takes his rod and he turns the water of the Nile into blood, and it stinks. The Nile stinks because of all the dead fish. They couldn't drink. It's everywhere, the blood. The Egyptian magicians try and replicate this. He, becomes hard-hearted.
Well, you just got to appreciate the humor of some of the plagues passages, which, this is a terrible problem. All the water in Egypt has been turned to blood, and the Egyptian magicians say, "I can do that too. I can make blood. What, do you want to make more blood? What are you, idiots? Why don't you do the opposite?"
And here I want to point to this verse. For those who were at my class, I have a video on this. But Vayifen Paro, he turns away. Vayavo el beito, I'm going to make it elaborate. He strolls back to his palace. Velo shat libo gam lazod. He did not render his heart. He did not shat libo gam lazod.
He did not even. Well, we would say, the idiom here is something like he didn't give heart, but he didn't pay attention.
He didn't pay attention to them. And I focus on this because that's, in that little detail, we have a whole story.
That is a great observation.
In the whole story,
so if you were today, who on the world stage is Paro in that scene?
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin, exactly.
Vladimir Putin is imposing lots of suffering. And even though things apparently, at least by our news reports, are very, very hard on the Russian people,
he doesn't care. He has a big, huge palace, by the way, on like the Black Sea or something. There's a video of it. At any rate, and Zelensky is the one that's walking among the people. And so there's. I'll use the word. And when the war started, people were saying that it's a Churchillian moment. The Churchillian moment is that. Here is, during the Blitz, Churchill is walking among the ruins, among the people, and he's full of spirit, and he's defiant, and he's smiling, and he's gonna, stiff upper lip, and we're gonna get through this together, because your leader here is not in a bunker, is not in a basement somewhere. Your leader is going to be out there because that's what a leader does, and so we have Pharaoh being, I think, artfully projected here as with his arrogance and let them eat cake and his indifference to his people. And we don't yet have a Moses that is in the Torah here, the Moses among the people. In my imagination, of course, he is, but we do have a construction here that Moses is humble. That
I would say that this is clearly correct. Now, let's ask why. the Torah is telling us a story. What is the Torah's concern? And I would submit that the Torah has told us what its concern is. And so you pointed out that there's time for theology, a time for a discourse about God, and then there's a time for pastorality, being with the people, being among the people, helping them accomplish their goals, helping them survive. But I think the Torah has told us, kind of repeatedly throughout the plagues narratives, that I just lost the pasuk I was looking for. The plagues narratives will tell us over and over again, this is so that you will know that I am the Lord. The point of this plagues narrative is, in a strange sense, I'll go to this one. This is chapter 7, verse 3. This is God telling Moshe in advance, I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that I can multiply my signs and marvels in the land of Egypt. And when Pharaoh doesn't heed you, then I'll lay my hand on Egypt and deliver them. I'll really make them suffer. I'll deliver my people from the land of the Egyptians with extraordinary chastisements. And the Egyptians shall know v'yad'u Mitzrayim ki ani Adonai, that I am the Lord. Pharaoh had earlier said, I never heard of this God. I don't know who this God is. The point of this story is, to say it nicely, is something like it's a revelation to Egypt. The revelation to the Israelites is the Torah. The revelation to Egypt is the plagues. You got to know that God's great. But I think that the drive of the story, is really at that level, and that's perhaps somewhat unsatisfying. That the Torah really wants to show God's, dazzling pyrotechnic power. Is that really what we want? It's not exactly what I want out of religion.
Well, okay, so let's see if we could save the religion. I think that
A modest goal, but it's
I've been known for my extreme modesty.
It's one of the best things about you.
I think that part of what's going on here is the Torah is going to humanize Pharaoh. So by the time that we get to the end of the story, and for these purposes, I'll say it's when he sends Moses and Aaron along with Bnei Israel on their way, no one will ever think of Pharaoh as a god again. And Moses is the agent for doing that, because Moses is in a difficult position. And I think, again, to your point about Moses not being a pastor, is I think it's too much to ask of him, because he's thrust into two diametrically opposed situations. He has to talk to Pharaoh, which requires one skill set, and then he has to minister to Bnei Israel, which requires a completely different skill set. And you can't turn it on and off that easily. And as we know from our own profession, no one is really good at everything.
No one is ever good at everything.
So you need someone else who could do the thing that you don't do well, so that you could do what you really do well.
So just dial back then to the beginning of chapter 7, when this division of powers, shall we say, is delineated. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, God says to Moses, Re'eh netaticha Elohim leFaro, I will make you Elohim to Pharaoh. We translate that as God. I will make you a God to Pharaoh, or a power to Pharaoh. Va'aron achicha yeh neviecha, and Aaron, your brother, will be your prophet. Ata tedaber, you will say, et kol asher atzaveka, everything I command you. Va'aron achicha yedaber al Paro, and he will speak to Pharaoh. B'shilachet bnei Yisrael mi'eretzo, and Pharaoh will send the people out. So it's not exactly clear, because Moses also speaks to Pharaoh, but the Torah is sensitive to the issue that you raised, which is you can't do everything. But I still want to,
then you have to ask yourself, is God such a good pastor?
So it's great,
because Moses is in God's role.
Yeah.
And just like God is lonely from last week, Moses is lonely this week.
And God will reveal that aspect of, what it means to be God later on.
We talk about, we talk about religion, there are these two big words that are used about theology. There's the transcendent and the immanent. Right, transcendent, God's up in heaven, people down on earth. God watches them like the lamps on the, as Isaiah says, on the rim, sits on the rim of the world and watches the chess pieces move. And then there's really, in it, that God is, as the great midrash about Shir Hashirim, Ani Yashenav Libi Er, I am asleep, but my heart is awake. That Kadosh Baruch Hu is Liban Shel Yisrael, that God is the heart of Israel. You got that's the great imminent. I think this passage is like double, triple, quadruple down on transcendence. This passage is God's the boss, and it's trying to teach us that. Now, Moshe, I would say, last week in the Parsha, in the three heroic deeds, when he stops, kills the Egyptian to rescue the Jew, or stops the Jew from killing each other, or rescues the shepherd girls. Moshe is, I think, and then it says the people cried in their bondage, they cried out to God. I think the Torah is saying Moshe is teaching the people how to express their dissatisfaction. That part I feel good about. At the Red Sea, perhaps Moses is going to say, listen, guys, it's time to walk. It's not time to pray. It's time to walk. That feels like some of what you're looking for. But this passage in the plagues narratives is like at 30,000 feet. It's not in the human experience. This one is like out of human scope.
So I want to go back to Moses then and ask, is Moses developing here? Is there a trajectory of Moses's own growth? I have not read the book fully, Aviva Zornberg's biography of Moses, A Human Life. It's called A Human Life. Is Moses learning how to be Moses here? And could you chart Moses's development with the failure of his speech to the Israelites, with his delegation before Pharaoh, with him speaking to Pharaoh, Pharaoh going home, not paying attention, this refusal, and is he learning things about Pharaoh? Is he learning things about God? Is he learning things about Moses here? And is this a useful strategy for this text, to think of it as a biography, basically?
I want to think that he is learning, but I suspect that he's not because of any deficiency in him, but because he's not in a learning role. I think as time goes on, he becomes a more effective leader. And again, I think it's important to isolate the tasks that we think he does exceptionally well. He represents the people very well before God.
Okay.
And he
start out that way, though.
No, and he critiques the people very well when they need reproof.
And he does, he learns on the job there as well, as we.
And he comes to realize that it's the going, not the getting there, that's good.
Nicely done. Greyhound bus or trail is what it is. But
okay.
I'm going to push
Harry
back.
Chapin.
Harry Chapin.
Who turned 80 around now. Yeah.
I'm going to push back at least a little bit about the biography thing. I have not looked one word of that book, and obviously she's a great interpreter of the Bible. So I don't know what she does, but it doesn't seem to me that we really are dealing with a biography type tale. It seems like we're dealing with a situation. Like I think this is true about all the people. It's not like, okay, if Yosef instead of Avraham was the character in the Akedah, it would have been all different. It's not dependent on who Abraham is or who Isaac is. It's the situation that matters. And I would say here too, I don't feel like, wow, if Moses had appointed somebody else as the deputy secretary of the committee, then it would have been. I think the situation is about I think the story is about the situation, oppression, the need to demonstrate divine power. I don't really see it as a person, and I don't think I see, because I don't really think that Bamidbar has said, let's start off with Moses in Exodus and let's see how he changes. I think they're just telling different stories. To just fill this in, we've spoken in the past about the Yochanan Muffs, his writings about prophecy, and the prophet stands in the breach, and stands in the breach representing the people before God, as Moses will say, no, don't kill the people. No, God, don't kill the people. Give them another chance, and representing God before the people, and Moses yells at the people and makes them eat the golden calf. But Mavs also points out that there's like lots of different Moshes. There's Moshe who is like he's demonstrated, portrayed like the wonder working guy in the desert who knows how to find the water out of the rock. He's portrayed as the poet who knows how to sing a beautiful poetic song. He's the wise judge. There's lots of different Moseses, and there's Moshe Rabbeinu, that the one the rabbis will make, and I feel like each of those stands on its own, not necessarily in a biographical way.
I want to add one thing to what Jeremy said, and that is when we think of various characters in the Bible or in fiction, whatever, even in real life, and we say we would like to be like them. I think that anyone who wants to be like Moshe wants to be like Moshe for his relationship with God, not for his relationship with people. And that affects the way that we look at Moshe. Right? Moshe has the greatest relationship with God. We don't really care how he gets along with people.
Well, yeah, as I said, that's
I know
why.
you do, Elliot.
No,
But I'm trying to help
no.
you. I'm trying to help you out here.
What you're hearing from me is I need that part of the tradition that does humanize him, that does make him into the accessible role model for rabbis, for pastors, for people who want to lead and want to have their cake and eat it too. They want a relationship with God and relationship with people. And Moses in the text failed, but Moses emerges as the most humble. He's not as beloved as Aaron, and this is probably where we're going here, which is that in the end, the Bible is the Torah is the story of this duopoly, or this duology, when two people run the show. three guys here can't come up with
a duiveret.
Right. Okay. And obviously they can't do everything. You need the president and the vice president. You can't have it all rested in one person.
You need a partnership, is what
you
you're
need a
saying.
partnership, and I guess that's what's going on here. That at least as the story. But I also like to say, he's maybe the Torah is not making him out to be the reflective leader, but hey, come on, your first plague is not your 10th plague.
Right, but the other thing, I want to come back to this. What is Moses's great act as a shepherd?
Yeah,
it's when he chases that sheep into the wilderness and finds God. We never hear that the sheep makes it back to the flock.
So tell that midrash with a little bit more fullness, so that our listeners can. What is it that the sages are trying to do when they tell that midrash?
I don't know. I thought I
thought
it was me.
The story is, how did Moshe come to the burning bush? There's one little sheep that goes off, and Moshe says, "Oh my goodness! I realized I didn't understand that sheep didn't have enough water, and that's why he or she was so so thirsty. They had to go off and look for water. I failed to be a good shepherd, so now I went after that shepherd. I care about each and every last one. I make sure you get your water, and when doing that, stumbles upon the burning bush, because God says, 'Oh, that's the guy who is going to be necessary.'" And that midrash is essentially saying that whoever the ancient author of that midrash is saying, with Rabbi Elliot Malamed of conservative Conservative Temple Congregation Anshe Emet, is saying, yeah, we got to have something a little bit more personality about this guy, because the wonder worker with the rod and these big pronouncements is just not enough as a religious leader. I got to feel something about this guy.
Exactly, and that's why I come to these parshas, the Va'era and Bo, especially, with a certain kind of difficulty, because and it's like your difficulty also, which is, it's all about the power. It's all about the light and sound show and this devastation, and we're modern readers of the Torah, and this unsettles us in some way, because we don't encounter God in this way, and so and we are more concerned with those poor people who are getting bombed, in Ukraine, and getting killed by these missiles, random missiles on any given. That's what's driving us. The people that are suffering throughout the world in different areas of conflict. These people who are risking their lives in Iran, to protest, and getting killed and getting executed. That's what we care about, and there are major political dramas going on here that are displays of raw power, and we just want to hold someone's hand, I guess. I don't know, but we are beyond our time. The Parsha takes us to Barad, hail. It's a fascinating plague because it's a nes within a nes, the fire and the water together, and that's what we got here.
Actually, I want to maybe add one little, just sprinkle, put a few chocolate sprinkles on your point here, which is that religion is going to have to also be able to hold your hand, and yet this passage does return to quote the finger of God, but not in that warm, tender way that you're talking about. It's I think it's really vivid for me. The hand of God means the destructive power and might of the God of the cosmos, and yet I would like more. Whatever. I think I described the passage as doubling down on the transcendence. This is what it's about. This is what it wants to convey. It wants to smack the Egyptians in the face until they also must know that Ein Kamoni B'chol Haaretz, that there's none like me in the whole world. But the overall sweep of religion can't be just divine might. It's got to be something tender.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we are going to leave our viewers and listeners with compassion and the hope that you enjoyed this. And we want to thank you always. We want to thank you for watching, spending the time. Please share our videos, share the podcast, because we love that you guys are able to enjoy the Torah with us. And send your comments, and we'll see you next week on another edition of Parsha Talk. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Shabbat Shalom.